Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and welcome to a special edition of Asian and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. And I'm here today to talk to you about Wendy Wu, Homecoming Warrior. This movie came out in 2006, and it's one of my all-time favorite Disney Channel original movies. Normally, I don't really like Disney Channel original movies. I normally like the ones that are based off of true life stories or ones that came out in the late 90s and early 2000s. But this movie I enjoy a lot. I love martial arts movies. Like I can't get like enough of like martial arts. In the 90s and stuff, I used to watch a lot of stuff like I think it was WMAC or WAMC, whatever it's called. It was like this martial arts type show that came on Fox Kids. Then there was Power Rangers and stuff, then you had like, superheroes doing it. And like, of course, like all these like Hong Kong type movie stars like Jet Li and Jackie Chan and stuff like that. So when I heard that they was making this movie, I'm like, oh, I'm so gonna watch this movie. Because like I can't get enough of like action. That's why when all this superhero stuff is more about drama than it is like action, I get very irritated and stuff. However, this movie was something very, very unique and different for Disney Channel. Like, Disney Channel is known for like, their comedy shows and stuff like that. When they do movies, their movies are either like sci-fi or realistic. I think it's called The Friendship of Color or The Color of Friendship. And, they had like movies like Xenon that was sci-fi and, stuff like that. And then they were based like, some like of their Disney Channel movies based on their Disney Channel shows. This one, however, is extremely unique, not for the action, but because this is Disney Channel first and only predominantly Asian movie. Disney Channel at that time wasn't really known for being diverse. Their stuff was primarily white, and they would have like, a person of color playing like a best friend. And if they didn't do that, then, they would do like, a show like say That's So Raven. And That's So Raven is a predominantly black show, but it was not always. In fact, the character of Raven wasn't even named Raven, and they first pictured a white girl playing the role. Annalise, who played Chelsea, she auditioned for I forget the original name of the character, but let's just call her Raven. She originally auditioned for the role because they envisioned that of a white girl and stuff. But then she didn't get the role, and then Raven Simone came in and just blew their socks off, and they decided to change the race of the entire family. And Annalise said, at that time, she assumes that Disney just couldn't picture the lead being that of a black woman and stuff, or a black girl. And even though Raven doesn't call herself black, she thinks she's dark white. I can't stand Raven Simone. And so that's how Disney operated for many, many years. And it was every once in a while, they'll break out like the diversity card and stuff and start I can't talk. Diversifying their roster and stuff. Like before this movie came out, there was Jake Long American Dragon, which was an Asian-based animated series. However, the thing about that is that there were only 2 Asian stars voicing the characters. Everybody else was white, and one other person was black. And for the most part, there were no Asian characters live action on Disney Channel whatsoever. Not as best friends, not as a recurring character, nothing like that. until The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, which of course the lead actress of this movie, Brenda Song, played London Tipton. Now, Brenda Song is a very famous Disney Channel star. Like, even though she wasn't like, the lead of The Sweet Life and Sweet Deck of Zack and Cody, she stole the entire show. I mean, she had her own catchphrase. Yay me. And everything. Like, who doesn't love it when she says, yay me? And what's so crazy about that is that in Hollywood, whether it's a TV show or a movie or whatever, catchphrases are normally given to men, never a woman. And primarily they're given to like white men and stuff. And so for her to not only be female, but a woman of color and Asian at that, to have her own catchphrase, that really is saying something. Some people don't think that's nothing, but trust me, it is something. Because Asian representation is solely lacking in American television, or just say the entertainment world. In America, Canada, Europe and stuff like that. I don't know if New Zealand is considered European. There's this one celebrity that I talked to from New Zealand, and I said, "Oh, so you're European?" And she got pissed, and she's like, "I ain't European," and stuff. Even though she's white and everything, and I assume that they're European because they're close to Australia and they sound Australian and British. So I don't know. I just don't know. Maybe she's just saying that. I mean, she's white and she has this thing where she doesn't really like white people. So like maybe she just doesn't like being called European as well. But like, there are Asian people in New Zealand, mostly that of Chinese descent. And these three actresses from Flat 3 had to create their own show because they said, there is no representation of them on television over there. And even when like American shows film over there, you rarely see Asian people on like the American shows. Even Power Rangers, which is crazy because Power Rangers is supposed to be super diverse, but during the Disney era of Power Rangers, they lacked Asian representation for some bizarre reason. And so Asian representation is one of those things that I feel like needs to be a must because you just don't see it. And like, so that is why I said her having her own catchphrase and being one of the most prolific Disney Channel stars of all time, because she wasn't even the main star. She was like a co-star, but yet I feel like, she was bigger than like, the other stars on that show. And the London Tipton character has appeared in so many different Disney Channel shows to where she was gonna surpass, like I think she's the only Disney Channel character who's appeared in more like different type of shows than anybody else. However, Brenda Song would have been one of the longest running Disney Channel stars, but Raven beat her when Raven came back from like, Raven's Home or whatever that show was called. But Brenda Song still does work in Disney today as voice acting. She does a lot of stuff. And, and I lost my train of thought. Oh, no, I remember. And so, yes, this movie, even though it was a big mark for Asian representation, it was also an even bigger mark for Asian stereotypes. And I'll get into that in this video because as great as this movie is, yes, Disney did do the stereotypical role. Their first big, like, Asian, like, property, they made it into, like, a kung fu movie and everything with a lot of Asian old school influence and stuff. And some people took issue with that, even still to this day, because of the fact that The thing about television is that television will teach you more than school sometimes. And what you see on television is what you perceive something to be, whether it is something more in realistic times or a fantasy or sci-fi or whatever. When you see a country or a person of a certain race or like an age range or a gender or like a sexuality or like whatever, and you are not familiar with that culture, then you will assume that is how most of the people there act, or all, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, take Sailor Moon. Sailor Moon was an anime that came out in the 90s. I watched it as a kid, and I know it's fantasy. I know it's fantasy. Now, once I found out they're not white, and that they're Asian, then I'm like, oh, okay, that's why these people are living in Japan and stuff. Because I thought they was white. Blonde hair, come on now. And stuff like that. And so, like, but then, there were certain things that I would see in the show when it comes to like the civilians. I'm just kind of like, I want to do people in Japan act that way, because sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. Like the way they eat noodles and stuff in anime is very realistic how they eat noodles over there. Or like, how like they don't allow shoes to be worn inside like a home, and they have to walk around barefooted or in slippers, which is an actual real thing that goes on over there and stuff. And so people perceive what they see on television, or on screen I should say, how certain people of cultures act. So of course, if you're not that familiar with that, the Asian community, and then you start seeing all this stuff where they're like, flying in the air, doing flips and doing martial arts, and meditating all the time and know only martial arts, and or something like that, then most people will probably assume that, and a lot of people did back in the day when, like, Asians started being more prevalent on screen around like the 70s and stuff. And the sad thing is, back then, when you will see an Asian person back in like 60s, 70s, something like that, it wasn't even an Asian person. It would be like a white person doing yellow face. And they would have like, the main character be that, and then they'll have the other characters be actually Asian. And I remember George, I think his name is Takai, I think his last name, the dude who plays Sulu from Star Trek. He was very offended, he said, when he was in this one movie and there was a white guy playing like an Asian character, and he had to call him master and everything for the role. And the guy was acting in a stereotypical, fake, degrading Asian accent, and and did the whole buck teeth thing. And he said he hated that experience, and that's what a lot of American people assume Asian people were like back then. And then like people, Bruce Lee came over, and then they assume, oh, all Asian people just do martial arts. But Bruce Lee helped change like the playing field for representation in like America and stuff like that for the Asian community. But he did a lot of martial arts type stuff, which once again, a lot of Asian people in the community don't like seeing Asian characters in American entertainment either be martial artists, either be like, a spiritual monk type person, a doctor, or something like that. They hate, or scientists, they hate thinking that everybody thinks they do martial arts, and they hate thinking everybody thinks they're brainy. And I understand that. Like, I would feel upset because, I'm a black man, and say the very first Disney Channel like black movie came out, and for whatever reason, they're looking tribal and have spears, and and all kind of other stuff like that, or it will be like, a gangster ghetto type movie and stuff, and I'll be like, is that really what they think of black people? That really gotta be like the first thing, you know what I'm saying? However, I will say this, it's like I said before, when it comes to stereotypes, a lot of stereotypes are based off of actual fact. It's embarrassing to some, and it's sad to say, but it is the truth. Take me, I'm a black man. I love Kool-Aid. That's a stereotype. I can't swim. That's another stereotype for black people. And I love chicken. That is the biggest stereotype there. Hey, I like my pork, sure. You know what I'm saying? I like my beef and everything. Give me a burger. But I love myself some chicken. I do, I do, I do, I do. I don't care how you cook it up. You can bake it, you can fry it, you can do whatever. Like any type of chicken that comes from like a Chinese buffet, yo, I will eat that. I will eat the crap out of that. I will eat it till my stomach is huge. I will continue to eat it and stuff like that. And it's just like, and it's a stereotype that black people like chicken and eat lots of chicken, but hey, it's because a lot of black people actually do. And when it comes to the Asian community, over in Asian countries, there are some that do know martial arts, you know what I'm saying? And a lot of them who know martial arts, they get into the entertainment business over there and they make martial arts movies, you know what I'm saying? And so I always wonder, what do Asian people think about when there are so many like Asian martial arts like movies in actual Asian countries? And then when it comes to being smart and brainy, one thing I have noticed about like older Asian people is that they always want their kids to strive for a good education. Why? The bigger your education, you will get a better job and you will make money because you need money to survive. Like, have you ever seen a homeless Asian person? No. And that's because, they work hard and they work hard for money so they don't have to be homeless and stuff. But I have never seen a homeless Asian person ever in everything. And so I do get that. Like, they don't want to be considered like the smart person, the brainy person, and all that other stuff. But like I said before, stereotypes are based on fact, and there are, I've had like, Asian friends in college and stuff like that, and they say, their parents have made them like, pick certain majors because, they wanted them to get like a good education and stuff like that. And having a good education is a good thing. There's nothing wrong with being a doctor. However, what is wrong is when every single Asian character you see in Western entertainment is always a doctor, or always a scientist, or always a martial artist, or always the wise old person, or the strong silent type who's mysterious, and then they done being mysterious and they whoop your behind. When it's always those type of characters, yes, that is when the stereotypical role does become super annoying. Thankfully, in modern days, you don't really see that no more in American entertainment. Like when you see, when you actually get to see an Asian person on screen, you don't really see that no more. They're either like the goofy person, or like, the love struck person, or a person who cooks, or, something else. Every once in a while, you will have, once again, those stereotypical roles, like the former CW Kung Fu show. I just now started watching that for the first time because it just got canceled. And it got canceled on the actress's birthday. That's jacked up. And on that show, of course, it's an Asian family, and one of them does martial arts. The other one is a doctor, and the other one is a valley girl and everything, which is another thing that a lot of Asian people hate in the stereotype. They hate seeing the Asian female character play a very white valley girl type. And, and it's something that has been going on a lot in the entertainment business. Sadly, Brenda Song has found herself prey to that, or typecast as that, back in the earlier days and stuff. In fact, before Wendy Wu, she was on Jake Long, but before then, her very first Disney Channel anything was Get a Clue. and that starred Lindsay Lohan. And there she plays a very watered down version of like a Valley Girl or London Tipton, as you can say. You know, she was all about the fashion and shopping and this and that, but she did have a little Valley Girlness in her. And then, of course, when she played London Tipton, she played an uber Valley Girl and everything. And when she played Wendy Wu, I've said this before, when you sign a Disney Channel, you know, when you're on a TV show, they make the movies and stuff and they have certain characters in mind. And they had her in mind for this movie. And what they like to do is they like to pull elements from their Disney character, television character, into the movie. And so I think she said, you know, she did not want to play a typecast type role. So she tried her best, you know, not to play like the London Tipton type. So this version of Wendy Wu is kind of a more watered down London Tipton. The same thing happened in Cadet Kelly. The Hilary Duff girl who played Lizzie McGuire played a more hyper version of Lizzie McGuire. And then Christy Carson Romano, who was also in Cadet Kelly, played another Ren Stevens, but a more angrier version of one and stuff. And then Selena Gomez, when she was in that Princess Protection thing, she played once again another moody teenage girl, very similar to Alex. So that's what they like to do and stuff. And you know, and that sucks that, you know, she gets typecast as those Valley roles. That's why I like it when she ventures away from that into other projects and she plays like different characters. Like I think it's a show called Dollface. When she normally doesn't do the Valley Girl thing, then she plays like, you know, the kind of sophisticated, a little bit stuck up type person with an attitude, like in Dollface. I don't understand the show Dollface. I could not get into that show. I only watched the first season. I tried to watch a couple of episodes of the second. I just couldn't get into that, and it got canceled. But, you know, she does play like, you know, other roles, like, you know, The Social Network, I think it was called and stuff. She's actually an actress I really like. I haven't seen her in much. Honestly, the only thing I really saw her in was Wendy Wu, Dollface, and one episode of The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, and then that Sweet Deck of Zack and Cody, the crossovers between Wizards and Hannah Montana. See, this whole Zack and Cody show, that was after my time. Because when Wendy Wu came out in 2006, that was my last year of college. And so, like, by that time, the only thing on Disney Channel I was really watching was like Wizards of Waverly Place. Because everything else was just a little too kid friendly for me. But that Wizards, oh, I will watch the crap out of that. I am all for the sorcery. I'm all for that witchcraft. I'm all for that Harry Potter and those wands. And like, you know, like abracadabra and Expelliarmus and like, you know, Vadacadabra and all that stuff. I'm all for it. And so I don't care what the age range is. I will watch it. Like Amazon Prime's Just Add Magic. I will watch that, and I have over and over and over again. And so, like, so those are really the only things I've seen her in. And the only reason why I saw that Sweet Life show is because it's on the DVD of Wendy Wu, and I have the DVD. And she is such a funny, like comedian, you know what I'm saying? Like she is such a great actress. She has an amazing look to her. She's like Thai and Hmong. And so like I've always like, no matter what I see, I always enjoy like what she like does because she's a really good actress. And it's really sad she didn't get cast in like, you know, Crazy Rich Asians, which that had to be very depressing because I think she said she was a fan of the books and she wanted to be in it. But she said that she wasn't, they said that she wasn't Asian enough. Apparently that wasn't it. There was some kind of miscommunication thing. She wasn't exactly what they was looking for. The director even said, he's a fan of hers and stuff, but they was looking for more of a Chinese actress and she's not Chinese. Same thing happened to this other actress. I forget her name. I think it might be Janie something. They said she was not Chinese enough because that actress is not Chinese either. And so they had a specific like race they was like looking for. And I'm glad the movie didn't go with, okay, well, we need a Chinese star. So let's just go with any Asian character because Hollywood does that a lot, especially in this movie, which is another problematic thing. The movie centers around Chinese culture and a Chinese family, yet there's only one Chinese person in the actual movie. It is the woman who plays the grandmother. And I remember her from that James Bond Casino Royale movie that came out with Daniel Craig. Because like everybody else is either Japanese, South Korean, Thai Hmong, and I don't know what the parents are. And that is a Hollywood tactic right there that really needs to stop. And it's been happening since like ever since the very first like Asian person appeared in the American property. It's like they need an Asian character, so they just cast any Asian like they could find. And I don't understand that merit. Disney Channel does that as well because it's a Disney property. They have done it again when they came out with Stuck in the Middle. They're true predominantly Hispanic like television show. Wizards of Waverly Place was like mixed, Italian and Mexican, but not everybody there was Mexican. One I believe was Cuban, I believe. And then you have like Stuck in the Middle, which is supposed to center around a Mexican family because the lead actress is Mexican and something else, I forget what. But in that show, you got just about every type of like Hispanic you can, and then they had the nerve to cast a white girl as a Mexican and an Italian woman as a Mexican as well. And it's just like they look it, but they're not that, you know what I'm saying? And that's the Hollywood tactic because the Italian lady said when she auditioned, well, when she got on this other show, because she looks ethnic accepting, she can technically get any type of role that has that type of like shade complexion. And that is something Hollywood really needs to stop. Representation matters, and it matters when, they're going for a certain role. Like take me, I am a black dude. I can't tell one Asian country from like another in terms of looking at a person's skin tone. I talked about this before. I was in college. There was this dude I know. He was Asian, and we met this one girl in college. And I asked her, what like race is she? And he said, I can tell without even having to ask because Asian people can always tell what country another Asian person is from. I wish I could do that, but I can't because I'm from the South, and we don't have that many Asian people here. When I went to school, there weren't that many Asians. And the ones that were, I remember the guys, they act like, ordinary, I guess you could kind of say like traditional or whatever. The girls were a little bit different. The girls, one I knew, because I went to elementary, middle school, and high school. And maybe college too with her. And the other one was middle school, high school, and college. And it's weird. They both did the same thing around the same time. In elementary, they acted like they was white. In middle school, they acted like they was black and goth. But in high school, they started to act like a mixture between Asian and white, mostly white. But then when they was in college, they actually started acting Asian and everything, and actually started embracing their culture. And So for me, growing up, and there wasn't that many Asian people at school and stuff like that, I didn't know how Asian people like act. You know what I'm saying? And so that is why this movie can be a little problematic, because you have an Asian family that don't do who have abandoned their culture, let's say. Like the only one who embraces their culture is the grandma. The grandmother is all about tradition and culture and her heritage and stuff like that, whereas the two parents, they have taken a step back and have been a bit Americanized, and the kids are super Americanized. And like the son is very slapsticky and hilarious, and the daughter is very much a valley girl. Her only friends are all white and everything. And like, she's like the uber valley girl. And one great thing about this movie is that later on there's a message about, not forgetting where you came from and all this other stuff. And, that's a very important lesson, because a lot of people have abandoned their culture. A lot of people have forgotten where they came from. Me being a black man, I really don't know. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, my family doesn't know anything about our ancestors. We know they came from like the Caribbean and like Africa and stuff like that, but I don't know like anything about like the culture. It was never taught to us. And it was never taught like in school, it was never taught in church, it was never taught in family reunions and stuff like that. And so when it comes to that of American black culture, or us like I don't fit in the stereotypical fashion of it. I am not ghetto. I am not like thuggish, and that's what people think of a Black American culture, because a good number of them act very ghetto, very like gangster and stuff like that. People assume all Black people are like that, and they're not. Like, you know what I'm saying? But that is also a part of American Black culture and stuff. And um it would be nice to like know something of like the heritage and stuff like that, but I don't. And then when you do have like a family where there is one who's very much into the culture and stuff, and the other ones don't want to know nothing like about it, that is really sad and everything. And this movie does help like teach that lesson. And when it comes to this movie, I've said this before, I love this movie. I will never hate on this movie. I do look at the world differently now because I'm older. I'm old and crusty. I look through the world with that rose-colored glasses and stuff. And and yes, this movie does have its stereotypes, this and that. But one thing, never, if you are a fan of this movie, don't let nobody discourage you from this movie. This movie broke barriers. It was one of the highest rated Disney Channel movies. It was the 5th highest Disney Channel original movie. And this movie broke barriers by having a predominantly Asian cast. People got to see themselves in this movie. And that is a special thing. And don't let nobody take that away from you and stuff. Because even though there's some problematic stuff, it's not all entirely, and it's not all in a bad way. A very bad like stereotype predominantly stuff would be if they would have like buck teeth, make a bunch of like weird noises and all this other stuff. Like, it's not like a racial like parody or like a punch in the gut. This movie is a fantasy movie. That's what people are forgetting. It is set in the modern day, but at the heart, it is a fantasy movie about Asian, like fantasy, martial art culture and stuff like that. And that's one thing I always find weird, because like there aren't that many people who talk about this movie. But the ones that do, it's like it's weird. It's like there are people who literally think this is the worst thing for Asian culture and stuff. But There are Hong Kong movies and Japanese movies that are similar to this. Mulan is one of them. People have literally said this movie is a million times better than the live action Mulan movie that Disney made. And so this movie is not terrible. And it's not a disservice to Asian culture. It just sucks that Disney Channel decided their very first Asian property is going to be a fantasy martial arts type stereotype type thing. But this movie meant a lot to people of the Asian community and stuff. Because I've read the comments and stuff. And a lot of people have literally said, this movie meant everything to them in their childhood. And nobody's going to take that away from them because Disney Channel does not do many Asian properties and stuff. Because after this movie came out in 2006, it would take Disney nearly 10 years later to have a television show based on an Asian family in the form of Andy Mack. And Andy Mack has gone on to be one of the, like, from what I've heard, one of the best Disney Channel shows ever because it touched down on real life subjects and stuff. And the Asian community had to wait 10 years just for Disney to pump out another Asian content and stuff. And so I always find it weird when people always say, oh, this movie's terrible. Oh, it set Asian culture back 10 years. Or they just make reactionary videos out of it, making fun of like the movie, all because they quit their 9-to-5 job and need YouTube to pay their bills and stuff. But this movie is amazing, man. The acting is good. The plot is cool. The action is top notch, boss level and everything. And it's sad that, this movie had to rely on like a stereotype that upsets the Asian culture. But there are still in the Asian culture who see this movie for what it is. It's a fantasy movie. That's it. It's just like Harry Potter. Harry Potter, it does stuff and, with like European, witchery and stuff like that, or Luck of the Irish and something about Irish and stuff. And it's just it sucks that they had to go the stereotypical route, but nevertheless, it's a great movie. And there aren't that many Disney Channel movies that can say they're in the top 5 highest rated, and this one can, and it's that of a cast of people of color. And the next Asian Disney property that's going to come out is, I forgot the name of it actually, but Michelle Yeoh is going to be in it. But it's not going to be on Disney Channel because Disney Channel live action is dying. It's going to be on Disney Plus. I think it's called American Asian something. I forget the name of it, but Michelle Yeoh is in it. And so let me quickly get into what this movie is actually about. Because I've been talking for like 37, close to 40 minutes and stuff, and I haven't even talked about it yet. And so now, this movie was supposed to get a sequel, but for whatever reason, it never did. I don't understand why, and none of the stars have ever mentioned why, the sequel never got made. Oh, before I even go into the movie, let me point out there are 3 people who starred in Power Rangers in this. So, the second main lead, star of this movie, Shinko Yamada, he played in Power Rangers Wild Force, which was a hybrid of the Fox Kids and Disney era. But then what's so crazy is Sally Martin, who played the Blue Ninja Storm Ranger. She is in this movie. And she would be in a Power Ranger, I think a year after. No, wait. When did Ninja Storm come out? I think it came out in 2001 or 2. So she was a Power Ranger before this movie ever came out. Come on, tablet, go faster than that. Yeah, Ninja Storm came out in 2003, and Wendy Wu came out 3 years later. And then what's so crazy is that, like, Anna Hutchinson, who plays Lisa in this, she was in Power Rangers Jungle Fury, much like a few years after this movie came out. And what's so crazy about Sally is that Sally plays Tori in this movie, and she played Tori in Power Rangers. And Anya, she was the yellow Jungle Fury like Ranger. So that's kind of crazy, like this Power Ranger connection this movie has. And the reason why it has a Power Ranger connection is because this movie was filmed in New Zealand. In fact, the people who play like her teachers and like the principal and stuff, they have appeared in Power Rangers. Because the principal, he's an American born but New Zealand actor, and he's been in plenty of Power Ranger shows. Also, I know why the fighting was so good in this movie. Like, the dude who choreographs a lot of the Power Ranger fights, he is the one responsible for this. Trying to think of his name. It's Koichi. I don't think I wrote down his last name. I'm not in front of my computer right now. No, it's Koichi Sakamoto, and he does a lot of stuff for like Power Rangers, and that's why, like, when Power Rangers actually do their American like choreographed fights in like the Disney era and some of the Fox Kids era and like the new Neo Saban and Hasbro era, that's why. It's a movie about good versus evil that's been going around for about 1,000 years. There is a evil demonic spirit by the name of Yan Lo, and apparently, like every 90 years, he has the ability to resurface and, like, inhabit the body of another person. This calls on the warrior. The Yin warrior is a female teen who must train by that of Buddhist monks and fight this great evil. There isn't really too much explanation as to the true origins of this. This is one thing that's lacking. It's a 90-minute movie and it's Disney Channel. And it's also a comedy, so like it has a lot of like, everyday life stuff, high school stuff, and they really don't go into specifics of this great evil and stuff. We don't know how he was created, don't know if he was once human or a god or a demon or like whatever. But his body form is like a green spirit in the form of a terracotta warrior. And so like he has this green orb type thing. And he possesses people by the spirit goes up and it like goes into somebody's body, and then when they look at you, when one person looks at you, the eyes, they glow green, and he's able to inhabit a body just by like instantaneously and stuff like that. And so basically he is like, immortal and stuff, and he just has typical villain like, traits of just wanting to destroy the world and enslave it and, stuff like that. And so he has this green orb, and it's never really explained what exactly this green orb is, but like at one point in time, he always places it near the Yin warrior, and they kind of go in this trance, and their energy and their power gets drained from their body into the orb. I wish they would explain a little bit more, but they don't. Also, Yang Lo is voiced by a white man. Couldn't even find an Asian actor to voice the evil, like Chinese, like spirit person, But anyways, there are these Buddhist monks, and we see one training. All of them have their heads shaven except for one, Shin. Shin is played by, ironically, the actor's name is Shin Koyamada. And he was one of the villains in Power Rangers Wild Force before they went over to New Zealand. He was the stunt actor who was the evil kind of like Wolf Ranger person before he actually turned back into a human Wolf Ranger and stuff. And this dude, martial arts ability is amazing. He's studying in wushu martial arts. He is a black belt. He's won like 6 international championships in a month. Like, this dude is awesome when you see him fight. He is fast, and I mean he is fast. And in this movie, he has a blend of Jackie Chan and Jet Li. He has that serious, stoic look, that stern look like Jet Li. But when it calls for comedy, oh, he goes straight into Jackie Chan mode with the facial expressions and stuff. And it really makes for a fun viewing. And so he is the only one with hair because he's allowed to grow his hair out because he is the one who has to find and train the Yin warrior. He is reincarnated. And so he's been reincarnated like 10 times and everything. And no, not 10 times, but this is like, what is it, like every 90 years or so? So like yeah, for like 1,000 years he's been reincarnated and stuff. And he has lived his life, you know, in the temple, never left it except for to go find the Yin warrior, what they normally are in China, except for this one who's in California. And so he knows some things about the outside world, but not much. But he's never experienced their food. And when he starts to experience it, oh, he loves it. And it makes for some really cool stuff. Like when he eats Cheeto Puffs for the first time, or when he has chocolate. And so like, this dude is very wise, you know, he has trained every warrior, but then sadly he has to die every time the Yin warrior has to fight Yang Lo. It's never truly explained why, but they say he has to sacrifice himself for the Yin warrior. They didn't go into much detail. That's kind of when the story's lacking. They needed to go into better detail with that, but they did so much high school shenanigan type stuff that like they didn't have time to want to focus on that. Remember, this is Disney Channel and they cater to that of a young audience. And so like he makes his way to like America and he does some like comedy stuff here and there. But when he meets the Yin warrior played by Brenda Song, she doesn't want nothing to do with him. She doesn't know who he is. And in the movie, before he even shows up, kind of like her powers are starting to trigger because she's of age. And so randomly throughout the movie, before Shin shows up, she is like a spirit. She's exhibiting martial arts abilities and stuff, throwing with accuracy. Like when her brother is about to eat a cookie from Jessica because she wants to vote for homecoming queen, she throws lipstick and breaks the cookie in half, not realizing how she's doing this. It's very much like a Buffy the Vampire Slayer type thing. And so when she's playing soccer, she does this amazing kick in the air, and she has no idea how she did like this corkscrew, like bicycle kick type thing. And so, but it doesn't faze her. Now, she is very Americanized. She is a Valley girl. And you know what? I just rewatched the movie and I just looked at the DVD, the extras. Brenda Song has been in a lot of Disney Channel shows and movies, and ironically, she does play a Valley girl in everything Disney, I've noticed. She gets really typecast a lot. I guess that's why when she left from Disney, she started to do more mature type roles. And you know, say what you will about her and how she portrays herself, she worked her butt off in this movie, trained hard. She already had a black belt in Kwan Tai Do. And like, you know, she hasn't done that in a while. And she trained for 7 years before this movie. And like, but for the movie, they trained for 3 months. But she already had a martial arts background, and she had to wear like a harness with a wire. And when you wear the harness type stuff, because you know you had to do like things in the air. Plus, they were trying to be kind of like Crouching Tiger a little bit. They have to put it on you super tight, because if it's loose, then you will get hurt. And so it rips into your skin and it hurts. Plus, they had to take down a lot of her outfit. So she was in pain throughout this entire movie. And she did a lot of her stunts and a lot of acrobatic type stuff with the wire work. And her mom was going through breast cancer at that time. So that's where she channeled all her, like, you know, willpower to like withhold the pain and everything like that. It got so rough that she broke a nail and her finger was bleeding. So people can say whatever they want about her, but like, this woman works extremely hard. Not to mention, she's from Disney Channel, and have you ever heard anything bad about her? I haven't. Like, she did not follow down that path of former Disney stars and got in trouble. I've never heard about one arrest or nothing like that because has either she has kept her nose clean, hasn't done anything bad, or she's good at getting away with stuff. And she was friends with Lindsay Lohan. You know how that goes and stuff. And so, like, people really need to stop like bashing her and stuff because there are more Disney Channel former stars and Nickelodeon who have done like terrible things. And she's always seemed to be pretty positive and everything. And so, like, with her, she's so Americanized. She wants nothing to do with like her whole Chinese history and stuff. And so she's creeped out by Shin. And so, like, she just doesn't want nothing to do with him and all this other stuff. And he's trying so badly to give her a medallion. And at this time, Yang Lo is trying to get her, but she has no idea. So, there's a really hilarious fight that's very Jackie Chan type inspired in the living room with her brother and like Shin. And because he's possessed now by Yang Lo, the brother. And it's a great fight. And it's like a silent fight. All you hear is like the music. And you see the dust come from like their feet and hands when they fight. Something interesting about this dust, you always see it in Hong Kong martial arts type movies. But the thing that's interesting is in one of the Rush Hour movies, the commentary, the director, said that Jackie Chan will not reveal what this dust is made out of. It must be like a secret that's, something that, the Chinese people keep very like to themselves, and stuff like that. I always assumed it was just regular like chalk or something, chalk dust or dirt or something like that. But it must be a combination of like something to give it that like texture and look. And I don't know why, I just love seeing that dust in martial arts movies. It's just something special about it. I don't know what it is. And so Yang Lo, man, he's interesting when he fights. Like, he knows that since Shin is a Buddhist monk, they preserve life. So he picks up two goldfish and he holds it in like a really funny pose and he throws it at Shin, and Shin's doing like his best Jackie Chan expression, and he grabs the fish and everything. And it's just like, I would not imagine a 1,000-year-old demonic being having such a goofy look on his face. But anyway, the medallion has a weird spiritual, like mystical energy to it. Think of Yang Lo as like a vampire and the medallion as like the Holy Cross. Basically, you hold it up in front of him and it kind of like makes him go away. And he can no longer take hold of like that body. And so like the grandmother, she knows who like Grandma Wu, she knows what a Yin warrior is. She knows who Shen is. And she asks him, to protect her granddaughter. Now, the the Yin warrior, like bloodline thing, it skipped her and it skipped her daughter. But her mother was the last Yin warrior, and she almost fell in her mission because Yang Lo has become too powerful. And so, like, she is all about like, Asian tradition and this and that. She doesn't watch American soap operas. She only watches like Spanish. And like, her son-in-law gets on to her talking about, why don't you watch, like American or English, like, soaps? And she's like, I do, the Spanish ones. Because the thing about her son-in-law, Wendy's father, he doesn't seem to like anything Chinese, just like Wendy. So that's where she gets it from. He makes fun of the culture. He makes like offensive, like, yeah, yeah, like type noises and all stuff like that. And it's just like, he just has abandoned his own, like, culture and stuff. And It's only when Shin shows up and starts talking about the history of China, like the moon cakes and like martial arts and stuff like that, he gets really upset and offended and leaves dinner. Because, like, you think, okay, why is he so upset? Is it because he really hates his culture or what? No, he's embarrassed that, like, he has abandoned his culture, and here comes this young kid knowing so much about like Chinese culture, and he doesn't know much of nothing himself, and he feels ashamed by that, and he wonders, what happened in his life that caused him to like abandon his culture. And that's a really important lesson this movie tackles, but it doesn't really go deep into it. It's like a quick like couple of like sentence couple of phrases here and there, and like an emotional thing, because for the most part the wife, she has abandoned it as well, but she still values a little of it. But she has forgotten all the stuff her mom has told her, like all the stories. But she's a curator at a museum, and that's where all the terracotta statues come from. And she's fascinated by all that stuff and wants to show its history, probably to make a buck. But she doesn't remember much about like the history of it and all. As for the brother, he's just a cool guy, you know what I'm saying? He's like the cool kid in like the movie and stuff. And like it's interesting, the actor. The actor is Justin Chow and Chan, and like Chan, I think that's how you say it, Chan. And he actually experienced racism in an audition. He wrote about it on NBC in the op-ed and everything. Basically, he auditioned for a movie. He drove about 50 to 500 something miles, something like that. And he saw a lot of people that he knew in the audition. They're looking for one Asian character. Tons of Asian stars, around that age will try out for it, because in Hollywood, they don't care what type of Asian you are, as long as you just play like that Asian character. And one of the guys walked away distraught, and he asked him why. And he said it's because they asked him to do a fake Asian accent, and that pissed Justin off to where he left the audition and drove all the way back home. And as he was driving, he started contemplating, did he make the right decision for standing up, or did he not? Because he said nowhere in the email for the audition did they ask for a fake accent. And he says that he doesn't like having to put on a fake Asian accent. He finds it very like offensive and everything. And like he wondered, did he make the right decision not playing this stereotypical role? Or like, if he didn't take it, then somebody else will. And would he have missed out on a big opportunity? And I've noticed something too that I never knew about before. In a lot of roles, some people who are, of a different race, they have fake accents. Constant Wu from Fresh Off the Boat, that was a fake accent. The dude who played Ravi in Bunked, who's like Indian, that was a fake accent. And like somebody else, God, the dude who played Han Lee in Two Broke Girls, that was a fake accent as well. And the dude who played Han Lee, he was in The Middle, where he just played like a person with select mutism. He was like a foreign exchange like student, and he pretended like, he just stared at people the whole time, never said nothing. And then he says like one thing at the end of the episode talking about, I know how to fix like toasters and stuff like that. And he did it with like a fake accent. And this is really odd when Hollywood asks people to do this. Now I understand if it's for like a specific role, like say you come from like another country and your English isn't very well, I can understand doing a fake accent then. I also understand doing a fake accent for like a period piece, you know what I'm saying? That makes a lot of sense when it's back in like the 1600s, 1800s, stuff like that. But when it's something in the modern day and your character is from like America, then there's no point in having a fake accent and stuff. And so like, yeah, that's just one of those things about Hollywood that needs to change when it comes to like other countries. I remember in Queen of Swords, the actress who got the role, who's Mexican, she dyed her hair because her hair is naturally blondish brown. And so she dyed it black because, she figured, oh, okay, this is for like a really Hispanic type role back set in the old days. And in auditions, they like for the dark haired Latinos and those that like roll their R's and stuff like that. She didn't roll no R's, but she dyed her hair. And so throughout the movie, Wendy is like, trying to avoid Shin, and like he's trying to like chase after her and her friends as they're driving. And it makes for a very hilarious bit. And so when he's at school, he's constantly just like hounding her down. And he keeps trying to tell her how like you're destined for this and you're destined for that. And he shows her the scrolls of like, what her ancestors always look like. They always just look like her for some reason. And so she's not buying any of this until she talks to like, her mother and stuff. And she sees the picture of Shin, and of him as a Buddhist monk with his head shaven. And so she realized it can't be him from all those years ago. But basically she starts to lighten up, especially because she's a bad student who not doing very well in none of her classes. And so like, he tells her, I can teach you because, he knows a lot about China, and so will she if she just taps in to like her ancestors and stuff like that. So because of that, and since he's going to help her, then she's now willing to like train. And when she trains, she does not take none of it seriously. She's falling down, she's eating chips, she's always on the cell phone, she's doing everything she's not supposed to do, and she is not concentrating. So at some point, her grandmother reveals, the history line of like the Yin warriors and all this other stuff. So then she starts to take it very, very seriously. By that time, young Lo is hopping around bodies. And so like, we get to see the interaction with Wendy and her friends. All her friends are white, her boyfriend's white, and her boyfriend is all about himself. He could care less about Wendy, he just cares about how good he looks. And her friends are just like Wendy, very rude when it comes to Shin. And so they have to pretend like, that's like her cousin and stuff like that. So she realizes he needs to blend in. So she gives him like a makeover at the mall. And when he's hanging out with like, her friends and stuff at a party, now all of a sudden her friends start to like him romantically and stuff. Since now he has changed his appearance to assimilate to look more like them, as opposed to wearing a Buddhist robe and everything. And that's kind of messed up how they now like him, only because he looks like one of those like hot Asian dudes in like, a K-pop video or something like that. And so like, they don't like him for him, they just like him for his outer appearance. And so this really upsets Wendy, because now all of a sudden she's starting to have feelings for him. She realizes her boyfriend is an idiot who could care less about her. But I think the romance between her and Shin happened a little too quickly, but like I said before, it's a 90-minute. So when she starts to see him like dancing with this other girl, and like this other girl can get down and dance, man, she gets really jealous and she just goes outside, and Tori comes in, and Tori's possessed at this point. So, she doesn't want to wear her necklace no more, because now that she's pissed at Shin, she no longer wants to wear the special medallion that's supposed to ward away the evil and everything. And, so they stop him, the evil dude. And so now all of a sudden she's back to liking Shin again and training. Her training montage now is pretty interesting, because now she is supposed to fight the monks and train more in the way of the leopard, the crane, the snake, the tiger, and the dragon. They say the leopard is for speed. I don't know how. I've never seen a fast leopard. They're strong and they can like carry a giant animal up the tree in just their mouth. It should have been the cheetah, I believe. A cheetah is fast, but she doesn't want to fight like the monks, because they're like old dudes, and she like they haven't done anything to me. See, the thing about this I like is that even though she's now taking her job seriously, she's still her. She still talks the same. She still acts the same. She's not acting like super wise or super focused. She still remains the person that she is. But she's just taking her job a lot more seriously now. So the monks are able to possess humans as well. And Shin have them possess her teachers at school because none of her teachers like her for some reason. And so we get this really cool training montage. The heavier set teacher is literally walking on a gate, and that's actually him, and he's actually upside down to get her to climb a pole the way a snake does, very limber. They put her cell phone up there. And what's cool about that is that, like, she said, when she has to balance like hanging by one hand, that was really her doing it on wires. And she said, the blood is rushing through her head, and like the wires and the harness is like cutting into her skin. But she said it was a lot of hard work, but she, fought through the pain and everything. So once all her training is done and everything like that, she's upset that Shin has to like sacrifice himself and all this other stuff. But it turns out that the fight that between good and evil is supposed to happen the next day during the homecoming thing. She doesn't want to do it, and she goes back to her selfish ways of just wanting to let the world burn and just like, go to like the homecoming dance and stuff. And her grandmother is very disappointed with her and she tells her, Shin has gone to fight Yang Lo by himself, which causes her to snap out of it and go and fight in the battle. Now, Yang Lo has taken possession of Jessica, her nemesis in the entire movie. What's weird about this is that when he took possession of her, she was wearing a different outfit. Now at the big battle, for some reason, Young Lo wants to wear a black dress. that never occurred to me until just now. And so Shin gets his butt kicked. In comes the other monks, still in the teacher's body, and in comes Wendy wearing a pink dress. And it's weird seeing the male stunt doubles dressed as girls fighting. You can so tell it's them in the body shape. But she did get to do a lot of it herself, Brenda Song. And it's a really cool battle and everything. There's hand-to-hand combat, there's fighting with staffs. But then her grandmother comes in with her great grandmother's like outfit. So she changes into that really fast. And it's just an epic fight, like left and right. And you can really see Brenda Strong giving it her all. Then all of a sudden, like, as Shin is getting his butt kicked and all this and stuff like that. No, wait, he's not getting his butt kicked yet again. Somehow she conjures up this mystical energy and shoots it at like Yang Lo as Jessica. This mystical energy is the same energy as the medallion. It's never explained how she's able to conjure that, but because the movie doesn't do a good enough job to explain it, but basically it knocks like, Yang Lo out of her. Jessica leaves, and then they think the evil is gone, but then all of a sudden Yang Lo takes the bodies of all the terracotta statues that's been shattered, because those are like his foot soldiers, and now he's in his true form. Shin has no idea what to do because this has never happened before, and he realized, hey, I haven't died yet. So they fight him together, and he ends up getting his butt kicked. That's when Wendy has to come in, and she uses her power to like, free Shin from the clutches of like, Yang Lo. And then they do like this really cool, like, kick, and she destroys him with like the power and everything. And all of a sudden the monks tell her this is it, like Yang Lo has been defeated for good for the first time, and and she doesn't understand how, because he can no longer reincarnate himself. And it's because they say she was willing to sacrifice herself. But technically, doesn't all the Yin warriors do that? So that don't make sense. I wish they would have said it was the power of love, because that's what was shown. But whatever. I guess Disney didn't want to go that far. So afterwards, the grandmother, tries to tell the teachers, oh, let's all go to my place for mooncakes. And Shin's all like, I hate eating those things. I've been eating for 1,000 years. So him and her go get like some chocolate and cappuccino and stuff, and it ends. But there is an end alternate credit scene. This is not canon within the movie because it's an alternate ending. Basically, Yang Lo survived and he inhabited the body of the dog. And so I guess since it like ended, and the Yin Warrior is supposed to just fight Young Lo for however many years and stuff, I guess they decided there was no point in the sequel because originally this was supposed to get a sequel. And like I said before, this is a good movie. Yeah, it sucks Disney went the whole martial arts route for their first Asian movie, but this is a fantasy movie, you know what I'm saying? And it had Asian representation, something Disney does not do. Disney has had very few Asian stars. Brenda Song has been the longest one, appearing on multiple shows and multiple Disney movies. But before this, there was another. She appeared in Even Stevens for like 1 or 2 episodes, and then she was never shown again. Other than that, there has never been another Asian character on the show until Andy Mack. Happy Asian and Pacific Islander month, everybody. Alrighty, well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.